Destiny may be the enemy of our enemies in the sense that he regularly pwns fascists on Twitch debates, but that does not make him our friend. You see, we are the enemy of liberals, and fascists are the enemy of socialists. So, to liberals, the enemy of their enemy, socialists, is their friend, fascists. Do you follow that? That's a terrible way of trying to explain that, but hopefully you're following.
Okay. Just now review the non-compete video on it? Yeah, I did.
I still can't believe that was scripted. Like, if it was a live stream, that's one thing.
Oh wait, no, I didn't look at the non-compete one. I did the Thought Slime one.
Wait, you haven't seen that Twitter clip yet?
I saw the Twitter clip, but I haven't seen the full video. I feel like it's probably just another dumb fuck.
It's, I watched like 5 minutes. It's the same dumb liberals will always side with fascists. Blah,
dude,
blah.
it's such a... I feel like somebody said it at one point, and somebody's like, dude, that sounds really good. And then they just like...
It's one of those, one person said it, somebody thought it sounds deep, and then it just got...
And then everybody repeats it. It's such a hollow, stupid talking point. It's so cringe.
Like, anybody will side with the fascists when they're winning. No shit. Like, anybody who doesn't gets fucking killed, so you don't get to hear about them. Not to mention how stupid it is when, like, technically right now, it's the fucking lefties that are siding with Trump. So, like, it's not even like a... Like, when you're sitting here and saying that, like, oh, like, we can't elect, like, Democrats, blah, blah, blah. Like, we can't let the liberals side with the fascists, so we're gonna go ahead and side with the fascists first. Like, okay, dude. Like, attacks from the left on, like, people like Nancy Pelosi and shit are literally indistinguishable from, like, Republican attacks on, like, Pelosi or any moderate Democrat. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, you can see it with, I still see it to this day, and it hurts me so much. Every time some dumb lefty falls for Tucker Carlson's bullshit. Happens so much at, like, almost every other day now. You can go on Twitter and you can find somebody saying, what the fuck? Tucker Carlson's based now.
Ah, dude, when Hassan started doing that, it was so fucking sad. He was like, oh, yeah, when Tucker Carlson was like, oh, these horrible large corporations. And Hassan was like, oh, wow, Tucker Carlson, yeah, kind of based, making good points. It's like, populism, good meme.
And the best thing is when people, like the sentence, historically liberals always side with fascists, is funny because there have only been like 3 like
fascist entities,
world superpowers, and there's only one other nation that wasn't fascist that allied themselves with them, and it was the fucking Soviets.
True! That was one of the big blows for communism in the United States. Wait, that's actually so fucking true. That was one of the huge things that fucked with communist and socialist movements in the United States was when the Soviets declared like, I think it was a non-aggression pact, right? With Nazi Germany, and they started invading like Poland and shit together and working together. It was one of the huge blows to the legitimacy of those groups in the United States. So that's actually ultra fucking ironic. Fuck. I'll remember that for my next debate.
Yeah, the historical name, if you want to sound smart, is the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. That was their alliance.
Yeah, and technically it was liberal democracies that actually ended fascism too, which is true.
Yep.
Okay. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure like a whole bit of like the Nazi party was them actually appealing to the leftist movements inside that government as well. But okay.
Sort of. Like the first people that Nazis like got rid of were like the socialists and communists. But that's
but the first you get rid of is never a valid argument because the first people that lefties kill every single time they get in power are the other lefties. Like that was true of the Soviet Union as well when they started to murder all of the other like lefty factions that weren't part of like the whole vanguard shit. Like lefties love, man, you think lefties kill fucking fascists? Lefties love fucking slaughtering other lefties. Holy shit.
True.
Pretty sure it happened in Mao's regime as well, where they started to like execute en masse like other fucking left-leaning people. But whatever. What's so interesting how lefties love killing each other? I don't know if righties do it too. Probably. The reality is that probably anytime any political movement like that gets in power, they got to kill all the other people that are like moderately or everybody else.
Like, once like revolutions happen, they leave a big old power vacuum, and if the whole revolution wasn't on board with what they should do afterwards, then it just devolves into infighting and shit. And my biggest problem is with like the revolutionary types that constantly say, well, I don't need to have a replacement for society to say that we need to get rid of the current one. And like, has there ever been a revolution that happened without a clear plan of what to do next that ended well? Like, I feel like once you overthrow the world order, you should probably have a pretty good idea of what comes next.
Or at least some kind of idea. Or any idea at all, maybe. Maybe not, dude, who knows? Many Chinese Communist Party officials, including Xi Jinping, the current leader, were in concentration camps. You mean just labor camps, right? They were just working them, dog. Remember the peaceful re-education that we're gonna have under... under fucking,
Yeah, NonCompete and his not gulags.
Yeah, not gulags. Wait, Link, hook me up with that Twitter video. That's just such a good-ass fucking Twitter video. I need to watch it.
Wait, the concentration camp or the socialist liberal one?
The re-education. That some of our comrades are gonna have to be re-educated permanently.
How we deal with former capitalists, fascists, and other such oppressors will be one of the great tests of anarchist society. Great care must be taken to treat them compassionately and humanely, giving them every opportunity to join our society as active and productive comrades, starting by treating them like any other comrade with special circumstances. Rather than ship deposed class enemies off to inhumane gulags or otherwise seek out revenge, they should be placed in reform centers where they are able to live in comfort and benefit from counseling and education, teaching them about the benefits of our new society. Some may never be willing to give up their abuses, and these die-hard oppressors would need to be secluded, perhaps indefinitely. But capitalists and reactionaries who demonstrate a willingness to re-enter society on equal footing should be given every opportunity to learn, grow, and eventually rejoin our community in peace. Chapter 9, the military.
This is the guy that I want running the re-education camps. Okay, let's watch this video. This guy is just a plethora of amazing ideas.
A lot of my viewers didn't like, for instance, that I called Bernie Sanders a liberal, even though he's very clearly and directly stated many times that he thinks capitalism is a fundamentally good system which should not be dismantled. He's even quoted Franklin Delano Roosevelt a few times to defend capitalism. I got a lot more heat for saying that the liberal Twitch streamer Destiny has no place in our radical anti-capitalist movement. Now, at that time, Destiny's popularity was cresting with the left. And many leftist circles praised him because of his successes in debating fascists in online blood sport debates. And the general consensus with most of the people I knew was that he was very valuable to the left for his ability to rhetorically take down Nazis in his streams, even though he himself was not a leftist or an anti-capitalist, by his own self-description. And I tried in that video a year and a half ago to make the case that if anarchists and communists do see value in what Destiny, or Bernie Sanders for that matter, are doing, then we should put forward our own overtly, unapologetically leftist versions of Destiny or Bernie or whatever, rather than depending on those individuals to do our heavy lifting. So many people were telling me that I should see Destiny as a valuable asset to our movement and that he might even be reachable. So many people, in fact, that I agreed myself to have a discussion with him just a couple of months later in August of 2019. And boy, howdy, did that not go well.
I remember that when you told me that there's no evidence of stable communist country in the world. And you know why? Because the capitalist country in the world fuck all us up.
I mean, even if that was true, that's not my fault that your economic system is too weak to resist outside pressure. If anything, that's not an argument for capitalism. I'm sorry, like if your countries roll over because they can't defend themselves, that sounds like a good argument for my system.
Well,
I'm sorry,
but are you saying that they rolled over?
Well, wouldn't that just
didn't defend themselves against the United States?
I'm sorry.
She got so
Wouldn't
mad.
that just demonstrate that
Yeah,
capitalism had a head start, though? That would.
You see, the whole conversation.
I'm sorry, but like if your argument for your system is, well, the reason why it doesn't work is because other countries are able to fuck it up so hard. It's like, well, that sounds like a bad fucking system, my dude. I'm sorry.
Conversation was pitched to me as an opportunity for me to try to explain some of the basic ideas of anarchism to Destiny. And at the time, I was unfamiliar enough with Destiny to believe that we could have like a casual, good faith discussion about our basic philosophies. I didn't expect to change his mind. Of course, I expected some resistance and some tough questions, but I was hoping that I could at least introduce anarchism to him, clear up some misunderstandings I felt he had, and maybe introduce anarchism to his audience. But what I did not expect was for Destiny to end up forcing the discussion into a might makes right argument justifying imperialist aggression against Vietnam and the Vietnam War, and trying to shift the entire conversation into...
I didn't even want to talk about Vietnam, but his like girlfriend couldn't help like coming on to scream at me in some 2-on-1, but okay, dude. Like I never agreed to talk with her, ever.
To an overtly
Also,
hostile...
tough questions like, what if racism exists?
What do you mean?
Well, he said he was expecting tough questions, but he couldn't answer. What happens if your workers?
Oh
are racist?
yeah. Oh dude. Oh my God. You're reminding me of some of the dumb shit. So I remember because people always like to make these arguments like, oh well, in worker co-ops there would be no racism, and it's like, well, what about like historically when like labor unions and stuff have been like staunch advocates of supporting racism? And he's like, well, oh no, I don't even think I got to that point yet. I was like, what if you have a labor union with 100 members, 80 are white and 20 are black, and the 80 white guys want to oppress the black people? And then he's like, do you seriously think that would ever happen? Like, wait, what? And he's like, I don't want to deal with these absurd hypotheticals. Like, what the fuck are you talking? This is the history of the fucking world. What do you mean?
From what I remember, you didn't even have to bring up the actual history. Like he stumbled on the
he died on the hypothetical. You couldn't even entertain the possibility.
Debate. I did not sign up for a debate. In fact, I said very specifically I didn't want to debate Destiny. I just wanted to introduce some ideas to him and see what he thought about them, basically. And in hindsight, it was fucking naive for me to think that we would have some kind of productive, good faith conversation, knowing what I know about Destiny now. But I have to say that seeing the callousness that Destiny showed towards my partner Luna, who is a Vietnamese woman, when she discussed the harm inflicted on her country during the Vietnam War and in the decades of imperialism after, was shocking to me. And even though I fully admit that I was pretty much unprepared for a debate, the one that I found myself in especially, and looking back, there were a lot of better arguments that I could have made. I still don't regret doing that debate because that experience showed me the nature of who and what I was really dealing with. Destiny wasn't just a non-ideological, centrist.
I like how he admits, like, I had no arguments at the time and everything I said was fucking stupid, but it made me realize how horrible Destiny was. Like, okay, dude.
Figure that could be converted to the left. He was a hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool imperialist neoliberal, and his comments towards Luna really pointed that out and highlighted that and made it unmistakable in my eyes. So if nothing else, I'm glad I participated in that debate because it showed me once and for all that Destiny is not an ally to leftists, not a potential ally, that the ideology that he actively pushes stands in direct opposition to the goals of revolutionary communists and anarchists like myself. And this is something that Destiny himself has said frequently. He has nothing but disdain for the anti-capitalist revolutionary left. And in the past few months, this disdain has boiled over into rabid calls for violence against Black Lives Matter protesters.
Keep in mind also, Black Lives Matter has absolutely nothing to do with fucking like counter-revolutionary leftist LARPing bullshit, okay? Black Lives Matter is chiefly concerned with the unaccountability of police officers and local police departments like being held completely unaccountable for the murdering of like black men, or even if they're criminals, even if whatever. That's like generally what BLM is about. It's not about socialism or whatever.
If there's one defining characteristic which both liberalism and fascism share as ideologies, it's this fuzzy grasping for power and unblinking self-contradiction in pursuit of said power.
Do you think this guy would have defended Morales overthrowing term limits after he failed a public election left to the people to expand term limits? Do you think that he would include this under that, or do you think not? I'm curious. A lot of people seem to defend his grab for power there, but I guess.
Both fascism and liberalism are manifestations of political opportunism with a thin veneer of ideology. Both liberals and fascists adopt empty slogans and cynical populism to build power for themselves. And throughout history, liberals and fascists have worked hand in glove to benefit each other. Both fascists and bourgeois liberals promise that they will improve life for the masses as they plunder our collective resources and build their own wealth and power. In his book, Nazism in Central Germany, Dr. Klaus Christian W. Zegman details how Nazi brown shirts worked with factory owners and other capitalists to destroy Marxist worker movements in what was then known as Red Saxony. Local capitalists paid gangs of Nazi brown shirts to bust up worker strikes and violently brawl with communist unions. And it wasn't just Nazi Germany, of course. Mussolini's black shirts were similarly backed by Italian elites. Mussolini's first fascist combat squad banded together in 1919 and consisted of 200 street-brawling black shirts who were similarly employed by Italian elites to subdue Marxist workers' movements. Franco's fascists had similar support from elites in Spain, as did the wealthy and powerful capitalists and aristocrats who backed Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist movement in China. And then the fascist dictator Pinochet was installed and supported by wealthy elites within Chile with plenty of help from the liberal imperialism of the United States government.
This is something that I learned is actually just completely and totally factually wrong. Fuck, I hate history, but I need to learn so much more about it. I don't think the CIA had absolutely nothing to do with Pinochet coming to power. It's just absolutely not true. It is completely and totally like a fabrication. Like you can go wiki, you can go look at whatever you want. The CIA and the Pinochet had nothing to do with one another. That's just blatantly false. And I've actually said before that they did because I fucking repeated it without ever looking into it. Fuck me.
And the CIA to unseat Salvador Allende, a successful socialist who'd been peacefully and democratically elected as president of Chile and who oversaw massive successes for the Chilean proletariat before that liberal-backed coup by Pinochet and his cronies. USA imperialism then imported stark neoliberalism into Chile through the Chicago Boys, a group of economically conservative economists who had been trained by Milton Friedman, whose anarcho-capitalist son, side note, I happened to debate a couple of months ago, weirdly enough, over whether or not rich people should directly own the police. Believe it or not, I thought they should not own the police. And then there's South Vietnam, where American liberal presidents like John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson installed a brutally fascist puppet government that guillotined tens of thousands of people with the willing complicity of South Vietnamese bourgeois liberal elites. So we see that around the world and throughout history, liberals have facilitated fascism both domestically and imperialistically abroad. And why do they do this? It's really quite simple. It's because both liberals and fascists face a common enemy. Socialism, communism, anarchism, us. Anarchism and communism stand in—
Imagine thinking you matter so much that this is like a chief fucking concern of like capitalists and fascists. That we're constantly worried that fucking LARPing socialist dipshits on fucking YouTube are
direct opposition to the political opportunism of both
I also
liberalism
love how
and
it fails to
fascism.
mention any of the bad states and dictators that leftist movements have ever upheld. Proxy wars required two people to have proxies.
Yeah.
If workers were to gain control of the means of production and erect systems of consensus-based real democracy, then fascist and liberal elites would be barred from accumulating the power and wealth they so desperately seek. While fascism is an incoherent, opportunistic ideology with the only goal of accruing power for fascist leaders, liberalism is all about complacency and Faustian bargaining. Liberal capitalists and politicians have invariably tolerated and enabled fascism throughout modern history because they don't want to put their own privileges at risk. And all the while, the lower classes suffer beneath them all, placated by false promises or frightened by fabricated external threats. Placated by comfort and privilege and terrified by the prospect of instability or change, liberals become the willing lapdogs of fascists. In most cases, it's likely that they see fascists as an unpleasant necessity, useful idiots who will serve the purpose of confronting socialism and doing the dirty work that they can't do themselves. They will poo-poo the—
The funny thing is that if you're like a true blue fucking neoliberal and that's like a huge fucking thing for you, fascists and populists in generally fuck your shit up. Like, I don't think a capitalist wants to deal with fucking populists, because fascism is typically bad for your economy. Like, a fascist is going to tend to be anti-globalist, it's going to tend to be highly protectionist, it's going to be anti-free trade, like, and these are all things that are going to be anti-corporate, which are all things that are going to be bad about, like, against like neoliberals as well. Like, so I don't know. Yeah, anti-immigration. Like, neoliberals love these things. Neoliberals love globalism. They love free trade agreements. They love immigration. They love corporations and firms. Like, these are all things that fascists fucking hate.
Yeah, a lot of this is a lot of analyses like this. They miss the fact that the reason the United States propped up anti-communist regimes that sometimes happen to be fascist was more about the geopolitics. Like,
well, because people are fighting for territory and shit. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
America and the Soviet Union hated each other, and they happened to be capitalist and communist. It doesn't less about the economic structure and more about the geopolitics.
Yeah. I think the success of China kind of disproves that. They synthesize global capitalism with fascism. I don't know if anything about China is necessarily fascist. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a lot, I guess. Actually, I guess you could argue that, huh?
I mean,
they are, it's single party rule. They are ultra nationalistic. The race memes, it seems like a pretty big thing for them. At least the cultural like purity is a pretty big thing for China. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it just happened just like so slowly and subtly that not anybody really like noticed. They're not as loud about it.
Maybe. Terms like fascist and communist, well, not communist, sorry. Terms like fascist are a little bit like subjective, or like there's not like a fascist mode, like, oh, we switched our government and now we're on like the fascist operations, right? Like it's less coherent than that. It's more kind of like a general ideology, kind of like a populist is like a little bit more of a general or vague term, right? It's socialist with Chinese characteristics, fascism, stock. What is Marsh talking about? I don't think any part of China, I think China fails the socialism thing because I don't think any part of China is socialist. I don't think that the government owning things is the same thing as the means of production being owned by the people. So I think that's why China is, I feel like it's more accurately described as state capitalist, because they still like they run for profit, and the profit doesn't go to the workers. It goes to the owner, which happens to be the Chinese Communist Party, is my understanding of it. Is why China isn't really, like, even if the government comes over and takes something over, and then the profits are still being taken from the laborers and then distributed back to the government, it's not really socialist, is my understanding.
Mr. Benelli.
What, dude?
Wooby in chat wants you to start the video.
The violence and say, oh, isn't it so terrible? The fascists are attacking the socialists in the street. Oh, it's so terrible. The cops are beating up Black Lives Matter protesters. Oh no, this violence is so terrible. But they kind of allow it to happen because that means they don't have to confront those radical activists themselves. Of course, as we've seen so many times throughout history, liberals don't usually realize that they can't control the fascist golems that they've created until it's too late.
Oh, wait, okay, hold on. That's a good point that I never really thought about much before. What we talk about this, like, fascism is so fucking common. Where are all of these fucking fascist regimes? Like, all of these huge fascist governments in the developed world. I don't think this happens very often. I don't think that this is like some huge fucking thing where there's like all of these fascist regimes running around now because liberals tried to appease like elements of their state that was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
This is one thing that makes me super like cautious or hesitant to believe any talking point about how fascism is born and grows, because we only have like 2.5 examples of it actually like being a country.
Turkey, Hungary, Poland. Would we really say that Turkey or Poland are fascist regimes? Turkey might be on its way there.
I mean, the problem here is that everybody's going to name any right-wing authoritarian.
Yeah, it's all going to be fascist, yeah.
Yeah. Because it all bleeds together, and you can't really tell at what point a right-wing nationalist government becomes fascist or not.
Fuck, I accidentally closed it. Fuck, I accidentally hovered over the window and pushed Control W. I'm so sorry. One thing that NonCompete didn't take into account, if fascists are the enemies of liberals, and I am a fascist, and liberals are the enemies of socialists, does that technically mean that fascists are allied with socialists since both of them share a common enemy, the liberal? Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.